Hey,
How are you?
great. How are you?
Not too bad. Live from Oakland Hills.
Live from Oakland Hills.
That's
Back at the
exciting.
house, getting some work done. Got some beautiful artwork behind me.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a change. Never know
It's
what
a
we're gonna see
nice,
behind you sometimes.
always going to be surprised, man. It's it. You
You
never know.
guys,
Sometimes it's just a sterile hotel room. Other times you've got a woman with bleeding roses
yeah,
in her
I was
hair.
gonna say, is that Bleeding Roses? Wow,
It,
different.
yeah, it looks like it. Looks like it. Yeah, one of the members here was kind enough to let a couple of us volunteers stay in their house for the week. So
Nice.
there's a couple of us shacked up here and not even sure what city we're in, but we're about 10 minutes away from the golf course. So it's perfect.
Man, that's amazing that they got some accommodations for you. And of course it's a member of the course too, just trying to help, just donating their house. Did they leave town or they have another property?
So it's a younger gentleman and his wife and kids went up north, northern Michigan for I don't know how long. So he just took the opportunity. He's staying with his brother and hanging out and letting us use his house. So
That's
it's
fantastic.
perfect scenario.
Good people all over, eh?
Great people, great people. Ran into a couple members today. Um, just incredibly welcoming. So excited to be hosting this tournament. So excited to be hosting volunteers from all over the country. And just extremely proud of their golf course. So yeah, it's a wonderful community, wonderful club.
It's fantastic.
How
And you
you
must be
doing?
have I was just going to ask you quickly. You must be having a ton of fun
Oh,
because of all of the names you were saying that was coming down. All the Phil Kafari was mentioning all the different people coming to volunteer. So you guys must just be having a party down there.
yeah. We are having a nice time. I missed a few of the guys. They went home before I got here, but fortunately for me, unfortunately for them, a bunch of guys have stayed a little longer because of this whole flight debacle right now. So we've got a couple guys that had to extend their stay by a day or two because they just couldn't get a flight home. So you might see Matt Chenard walking around in the background there in a little bit. He was supposed to go home Sunday, and what's today now? Tuesday afternoon. So
Still kicking
he's
around, eh?
yeah, 2 days delayed and he was supposed to fly out last night. Flight got canceled on him at like 10 o'clock. So he had to come back to the house and scrambling to try and figure out a way home. So it's been interesting. It's been
Yeah.
very
You
interesting.
need to start traveling with a second mic in case we have somebody like that. We'll just suit them up and get them in
I
there.
know. I know. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I'll have to have you teach me how to set it up.
We will get there.
Yeah. What's up with you?
Nothing crazy over here. Just working. I talked to Tyler Bloom this morning for a little while, and he was telling me he had a lot of positive feedback from the episode, and there were some people
Yeah.
reaching out for some advice and some help. So that's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of feedback sometimes from the doing the show, but getting to hear stuff like that, it certainly warms my heart knowing that we're helping a little bit and connecting people and helping the industry when we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Always great to hear that kind of feedback and looking forward to today. We got another guy that's kind of focused on career development here with Mike O'Keefe. So it'd be nice to get his insight from a worldwide perspective.
He is definitely somebody I've been looking forward to talking to. His name came up a while back, and we haven't had the opportunity to get him on. I know with your relationship, you were able to kind of secure that a little bit quicker. And the amount of people that have reached out since we put out the little question box yesterday has been great. So there's some cool comments that we have to read for him and a couple great questions too.
I was wondering what kind of questions you got. So I fondly consider Mike the most interesting man in our industry. He's been everywhere. He knows everybody. He's got some phenomenal stories. So I can't wait to chat with him.
Yeah, should be a good one. There he is.
There's a man that's got some golf flags right there.
Yeah,
Look
that's a
at that.
collection.
How are you guys doing?
Doing well, Mike. How are you? Thanks for
I'm
joining.
good. I'm good. I'm just worried there you couldn't hear me for a second.
We got you loud and clear.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, yeah,
We were
that's
deep in conversation there for a second, so we're happy to have you on though, Mike.
no worries, no worries. Yeah, I'm happy to get on here. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts. Probably my favorite was the Thomas Bastis one.
Yeah.
That was a good one,
That
right?
was a good one. Probably one of our most popular recent ones for sure.
Oh, really? You can see the stats or whatever?
Yeah, we get stats every once in a while just about different episodes and monthly things and stuff. And yeah, his did really well.
I've recommended it to a number of people, actually. A lot of my students that go volunteer, I warn them, do not call him Tommy or Tom.
I've got a few nicknames that they can call him. We'll do that offline,
Yeah, we'll
okay?
leave that off.
Oh, oh, yeah. Do not call him Tommy, whatever you do. Hey, Tommy Bastis, how you doing?
So you're
Yeah,
you're home for a change, huh?
I am, and I'm actually just before you got on, I'm trying to get a flight to Milwaukee, and I'm frustrated as hell with this flight thing. It's a disaster. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
been a
we
mess.
were just talking about that. There's a couple guys up here at Oakland Hills, volunteers that flew in. That just, guys that were just coming for advance week that haven't been able to get home because of that whole
Yeah,
mess.
yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I was gonna go yesterday, and I'm like, no, I got to go up to Whistling Straits. I've got. Well, actually, Brian, you know the one boy. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
Adam knows the story or not, but you were up there, right?
I was there. I was there. Hey, he totally redeemed himself. He finished the week strong.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh yeah. As far
Adam,
as I know, at least.
yeah, I was somewhere in New Zealand in the middle of the night, and I got a tip that this kid was on the bender, and they couldn't wake him up, and he didn't show up for the next morning, and so I contacted Brian. I was like, "Hey, man, can you do me a favor? Go rattle this kid's cage, man. And the kid was like, "Who told you? Who told you?" And like, he knew I was in New Zealand, right? So he's like, somebody told him, Well, I didn't reveal my sources. Well, I threw Brian under the bus.
Oh no.
It's like, well, Brian is there, man. He's documenting this, and you just didn't show up. So obviously he's concerned about you. So yeah, it was bad. It was
It
bad. So,
look, it happens to the best of us. I've seen it a time or two. Some people will send you home, some people will give you another shot. So
oh, dude, if you did that with Chad Mark, your ass would been on a plane.
yep, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. But Sam is a good guy, and I guess he laughed it off kind of when the kid went and apologized. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. Again,
so it's
give them a chance. I've seen many of these tournaments where assistants and even at times superintendents have slept through an alarm or whatever because you're fully aware, Mike. It's a long week.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, the problem is, Adam, that this kid is young and naive, and he was out at a reception where all the beers were free
Yeah, that'll
and the
do it.
food was free, and then it's like, hell yeah, I'll have another beer. So because the other kid was more mature, he's from Finland, and he's the one that tipped me off actually and said, "Hey, I'm just worried about him because we couldn't wake him up, so I don't know what to do." And I'm like, I know what to do. So, but no, it's good. But no, I enjoy your podcast. It's really good. I like that you're, getting the guys on the ground, and that one you did with Pinehurst was awesome as well. That was really good to get John on there. And it's just you just don't get that kind of access from everybody. It's hard to get it out there. It's LACC as well. I mean, it takes a lot of groundwork to get around those guys, to get them even to talk, Brian. I mean, I struggle with some
Yeah.
of these guys to get them to talk. That's a feat in itself sometimes. They're stressed out, they're nervous, and just getting them relaxed and talking about the whole inside is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and you're well aware. I mean, a lot of it boils down to trust. And they need to know who you are. They need to understand you have good intentions. And so that certainly helps. So the network we've been able to develop and the work that we put out there certainly speaks volumes and allows us the the ability to do that. And we're very, very fortunate to be able to do so. So yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate your comments.
it's awesome. So
Yeah, it's very nice to hear, and we certainly don't want to bring anybody on here to grill them. If anybody's ever felt like that, we do apologize. But it's more to tell your story and be able to have you have an open floor to be able to talk about what you want to talk about because there are a lot of different ideas and personalities in this industry. So it's a great place for people to hopefully feel comfortable and put it all out there. And I know we have a lot of fans in our community that are very high on you and very excited to hear from you today. So before we get into anything crazy, we'd just love to hear about, what kind of your upbringing and getting into the industry and how that all kind of came about for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we were recording already. Uh,
It's okay.
Right into
You
it,
just
Mike.
tell us what you want to cut if you need
Yeah.
to
Oh,
cut
yeah,
I
something.
just
absolutely.
hope I didn't say anything bad. I got to watch being Irish, we tend to cuss a lot. So I apologize if I do let it slip every once in a while.
Oh, it's wide
It's
open,
okay.
bud.
Um, but no, my background, Adam, I grew up in Ireland on a dairy farm. And in Ireland, you kind of, if you haven't been there, it's a small island. And my whole family before me had traveled internationally. So I was the youngest of six, and they'd all traveled internationally. And they'd all encouraged me, and my parents had encouraged me to travel as well. It wasn't something that I had to do, but it was just a kind of a given. And I went to horticulture college. Actually, I got a scholarship to go to horticulture college, paid for, and I came out of it. And the way it works in Ireland, you get a job out of college, they get you a job, and I got a job, a good job. I had a truck. I remember I had a Toyota Land Cruiser. I was able to go play rugby on the weekends, and everything was fine. And I got to a point where I was like, is this it? Is this how life is going to be? Like everything's set up for me and everything's done, preordained. And I just remember saying, I don't want to keep doing this forever. I got to do something different. So my boss at the time said to me, you've been in Holland, you've been in France, you've been in England. You should look at America. And I was like, really? You think I'm that good, like to go to America? So I did. I applied for this very program that I manage now through a young farmers club in England. And I got onto the program, long story short, and doing veg production in southern Ohio, growing 400 acres of tomatoes for Heinz tomato ketchup.
No
And
way.
I came out on the program, and I was 21. I was a little bit more, switched on, and the people here just saw potential in me immediately. When it came to getting labor, we realized that local labor couldn't handle the pressure of this. I don't know if you know much about transplanting tomatoes and doing that stuff in the elements in April and it's windy. And I talked to him about getting Hispanic labor. This was back in 1986. This was before, all the illegal stuff and all that stuff. And we went down to Mexico. I went down with my boss, if you can believe this, down to Mexico. So I was a little bit more switched on than normal intern. And we recruited about 40 Hispanic workers from Mexico to come up into the States for training. We did it legally, and it was a fun time, and it was so crazy. I'll tell you one thing that really brings me back. My boss booked the flights, and he booked the tickets, and his wife booked the tickets in her name and his name, and I flew under her name. And he was on the plane smoking a cigar on the plane. Now you just think about that. You're too young to ever imagine that. And I remember the lady saying, "Sir, you shouldn't be smoking a cigar." And he goes, "Why not? It's just a big cigarette, And at the time, I never thought about it, but when I look back now, I think this was ancient history. So, but
Yeah.
long story short, I was on the program, and I was always very astute about how you take care of people. And I had a young man from England with me that wasn't being treated that well. And I called the then manager of the program at night, and I said to him, "Hey, this English kid is not being given a fair shake, and I don't know what to do." And he goes, "You leave it with me." And he called the boss, and he worked out for him to be moved to another location on the farm. And I didn't think anything of it. I would do it for anybody. But my boss at the program at the time saw potential in me that I wasn't, when you're young, you just look after yourself and you just think about yourself. You don't think about anybody else. Well, he saw potential, and he contacted me and asked me when there was an opportunity to come into the office here and work with him. And I was like, why would he pick me? I mean, out of all the other people. So I finished up coming in and working part-time in the office here, helping him out. And one thing led to another. In 1990, after 3 years of working part-time for him in the office here, I came in full-time to this job in 1990, having started in 88. And it's all about looking out for other people and trying to help other people. And that's why he gave me the job of doing that kind of thing. And you know what? I've worked through the program, but you asked me about funny stories, and there's a real funny one about when I came in. There was no job description for what I was doing because we're dealing with foreign interns, helping them, come into the country, recruiting, placement. So we came up with a job description called International Student Advisor and Staff Assistant. It was a really long title. I hated it, but that was the only thing they could find that related to my job at the time because it didn't exist. Long story short, I'm going to buy a house about 4 years later. And I was in the realtor's office. We had the realtor's lawyers, we had our lawyers there, everything. And we go through, when you buy a house, you got to sign 20 pages of stuff. And we signed it. And this one gal, they said, has anybody got any questions? And one of the gals was preparing the form. She put her hand up and she goes, I do. She goes, what exactly do you do? And I'm looking around, who, me? She goes, we're really interested in your title. And I'm like, oh no, what's wrong with my title? I was nervous. Well, in the old days, when you filled in the boxes and it printed out, it only filled in so much of the title. And the title came out and all it typed out was international and the first four letters of the next word, which was STUD. And it printed.
Oh, yes.
And they said, refer to page 22. And when we looked at page 22, below my name as my profession and title was International Stud. My wife was sitting
How
next
is
to
that
me.
not carried over for all these years?
Well, but my father-in-law was sitting across from me because he was our realtor. You want to see a different shade of red? Oh my God. And all these girls are looking at me like, we've seen a lot of titles. We've never seen one that said just right up front, International Stud. And I was just like beat red. I was so embarrassed. It was horrible. So needless to say, I came back to the office and said, I need to change my title. I got really embarrassed today. So, but
Oh no. Well, we're gonna have to get a new flag for your office back there that says International Stud. There's
Yeah.
no
Oh,
question
trust
about
me,
it.
I got beat up over that so bad. But so I got my title changed and now I'm a program manager. So it's much more boring and much more easygoing, But I mean, the job itself, Adam, in what I do is really come true because I was an intern myself. I became a host on the farm and I started taking interns on the farm. So I've been on every side of this. And honestly, in this kind of game, you better know what you're doing because you're going to get sidelined. You're going to get, blindsided in this business if you don't know every side of this business. So it's been a long journey, but it's been a fun one.
Mike, how do you go about finding your people to place?
So it's a little bit like the recent trip I just did, 11 flights, if you can imagine 11 flights through New Zealand and Australia. And I go in, that flight was all about recruiting for turfgrass. We recruit in other areas as well, but just to give you an example, because this is a turfgrass audience, I went down to a guy called Brian Palmer. I don't know if you know who he is. He's down in Te Aria Links in New Zealand. And I talked to Brian and I said, Brian, I don't want to go through every golf course in New Zealand. What can we do? And what he designed was he has a new golf course, and you guys should check this out. And he would be a great guy to interview, actually. They've built two new golf courses called Te Aria Links. One of them is Te Aria North and South. And he said, everybody wants to see my golf course, but I don't let them in. But how about we have an open day or a field day for all the apprentices in New Zealand? I'll invite all the apprentices. And he did. We had 40 young people show up. And
Wow.
we walked the course. We talked about what issues he was dealing with. And he talked to me about, Mike, how does this work in America, whatever. And we do what's called a soft sell. We don't do, you should come to America and you should do this. No, we don't. We try to think about what would they like to do by seeing a new course and seeing what issues and problems he's having with growing and swales, and talk about architects and what you got to look out for when you're in a new course. What's an architect going to do that's going to mess you up? And there was banks, for example, and he was like, okay, guys, how are we going to aerify that bank now? What would you do? And they were like, you can't. There's no way. So this is how I go about it. It's relationships. It's building those bridges. I went from there over to Australia. I went to a trade show and I sat on the trade show with all the salespeople. And I talked to all the salespeople. And guess what? All those salespeople over the years, it wasn't that easy at the beginning, but now over time they know me, they know the reputation of the program, and they know if they see a young woman or a young man on a golf course they think would really benefit from something like that, they tell them about me and they put them in touch with me. So it's purely word of mouth is what it is. 90% of my applicants are coming to me because of a reference from somebody else, Brian.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? We talk about how connected this industry is and all the mentors and all the people that are there to help. So it's great to see that our people are leading, some of the youth or some of the people that are interested in the industry towards you. You see a lot of people and students and stuff traveling internationally. Would you say there are more coming to America to work on golf courses, or more Americans that are leaving to go overseas?
Well, I mean, COVID really screwed us up with the ones coming in this direction. I will tell you that my job, I wear a couple of hats. I work for Ohio State and I manage the program, but I also sign the visas for the State Department in determining who gets visas to come in here. And I go into DC and I tell them we have an image of being difficult to come into the States. And people see us as America when they sit in England or Finland or wherever and going, oh man, I'm not going to go to the States. It's too difficult. It's too complex. And we have an obligation to make it easier to legally come into this country. And it's hard. Let's face it. It's not easy to get a visa to come into America compared to going to New Zealand, where you can go online, boom, 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 pay a fee, and you got a visa in 20 minutes. And that's the competition we're dealing with. So coming into America, it's hard. The numbers are not as good as they used to be. And of course, like all of you know, the numbers in turfgrass as a whole worldwide is massively down, Adam. It's really down. So the numbers in New Zealand, in Scotland, in Germany, they're all suffering. And it's crazy how for years I always worked off of the balances of, well, you know what, times are good in the UK. Okay, well, they're going to stay in the UK. Times are not so good in greenkeeping in the UK. They want to come overseas and travel. As you know, when times are bad, you're going to go out and look for, training and education somewhere else. Well, we have a worldwide shortage of greenkeepers right now. Regarding America, that's a big problem. We don't have enough of young people from the US and Canada that are going to go overseas. They, number one, don't know the framework. Number two, they're scared about the visa process. Number three, they're scared about what they watch on CNN every day. I mean, the world's a dangerous place right now. So they're hesitant to travel. They stay at home. And, number four, the problem is that we don't have the incentive to send them overseas. There's not a framework there like what I do. I mean, if a Canadian contacts me and says, hey, I'd love to go get a golf course in England, I jump at helping them. They're not Ohio State. They're not from anything related with us, but you know what? It's a worldwide profession, and I'm happy to help. And I do that for people I don't really know. Now I'm nervous about it, but I can tell enough about somebody if they come from, the University of Guelph up there, or Saskatchewan, or someplace like that, and I can see where they've been in Canada. Then I'm happy to help them. But the same with universities here in Nebraska. If they come to me and ask me for help, I will do it. And that's the thing. We just don't have enough of Americans going overseas to do that. When they do, I can develop an amazing program. Brian might know a guy called Patrick Andrews. Are
Mhm.
you familiar with Patrick Andrews, Brian?
I am. I am. Gave him a scholarship not too long ago.
Oh, did you
There you
really?
go.
Wow.
Yeah, through the Ohio chapter.
Yeah. So Patrick was a young man that was here at Muirfield Village, Adam, and he expressed an interest in going overseas, and I put him into a course actually that's up on the wall right there with the big A. They're going to be a future site for the Ryder Cup, Adam, over in Ireland called Adair Manor. And he went over there for 6 months and he was fully bent on coming back to the States and getting a job. And I said, man, you only get one chance at this. Do you want to do more than that? Chad Mark was chomping at the bit to hire him. All these other guys wanted to hire him. And I said, hey, you're going to have a job guaranteed when you come home. Why not do a little bit more traveling? He's like, well, where could I go? It's going to be October. What am I going to do? And in fairness, I got some help from TurfNet to help him with a scholarship, and he did a blog, and I sent him on to New Zealand to do another 6 months, and he went down to Te Aria Links and Taraiti and did 6 months with Brian down there. And you want to talk about 6 months in Ireland, Adam, and 6 months in New Zealand? I mean, that guy was on fire when he was done. That's an example of what we can do for an American.
That's some
I talk,
experience right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Talk a little bit about expectations, or I guess what the program looks like. You know, if someone young kid in the turf industry is coming over here, you know, I know they spent some time at a couple of different golf courses, but we'll talk about what's all involved in that program.
Yeah, if somebody comes to me from, say, London and they want to come over here, I will first look at where they're at in the UK and what their education system is. You can appreciate, Adam, the education system is different in Canada. It's uniquely different in England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales. So I study the education systems over there. So I will immediately know what they've done. Maybe it's not a degree level. Maybe they're going to aspire to a degree, but they don't have that level of framework over there. So then I would look at the golf course they were at, and I will more than likely know what course they were at and the caliber of the course and what the young person is capable of. And then I will go to them and talk to them online like this, and you can tell a lot about a person on a WhatsApp video and ask them about what they know about the program. And 9 times out of 10 at this stage, they will know about the program already if they've reached out to me. So I will see what intensity level they want. For example, I was just on the phone with a young man from France that's up at Muirfield Village. And I knew he was driven because he had said to me, I've talked to Lucas Pierre and I've talked to Romain Basque, two of the best French guys that were on my program. So then I know I can put him to a higher level. So he's up at Muirfield Village now. So that's the secret to the key to this is, what's the young person coming from and where can I put them that will match them? So in essence, I'm really a matchmaker. Match the right guy and putting him into the right level of pressure. And you know, I take somebody like that and put him up in Muirfield. And if you ask Chad about him, Brian, he already has him spraying greens.
Oh
Now
yeah.
that's a huge pressure on a course like Muirfield that you trust an intern to spray. That's crazy. So then I knew I did the right job. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I get it wrong sometimes, but he's up there at him for 6 months, April to October. And then I will move him down south. And the key is to then finding out what's he capable of doing to the next level, because you want to know how can you challenge him to a higher level. And if he's on board to go to something like another tournament, like a major, like a players championship, I'm going to be watching how he's doing during that summer, and I will do that. So that's the framework. 6 months up north, high end, you know, dealing with different grasses up here and the intensity and the level of detail, and then move him down south to warm season. So you'll get a fully rounded young person if they stay here a year. Now, Adam, you got to understand, I'm dealing with American students that come out the end of May and they go back to college the 1st of August. Do you know how much hell that is for the superintendents around here? They're coming out in the heat of battle, and it's hell for them to try to get them focused, to try and get them trained, and to try to get them to focus the last month before they're ready to go back to college. So it's almost an unfair playing field. And that's why when you look up at the wall behind me, it's more than likely a lot of top 100 golf courses, because I'm bringing somebody out in April and I'm insisting that they stay until October. The supers want them in April when they're getting kicked off. They're there, they're trained, they're up to speed, and then they're there until October when they're aerifying their greens and closing their golf course down. Do you understand that, Brian, as to why that works so well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Seen it in practice several times. So I love talking to the guys and hearing where they're going and all the experiences they're having. So you've got them all over the place. Is there education tied to it as well? I know you bring them into Ohio State, you know, when they first get started for a little orientation, but is there an education component as well?
Yes. Don't forget that they're already in an education stream back home already. And
Sure, sure.
unbelievably, things are changing overseas, that they're no longer going in and putting bums on seats. They're all doing online. They're all doing modules. For an example, in Australia, they will work on the golf course that they're being sponsored or paid for to do their education for a month, and then they have like 1 week where they'll come into class, or they can do 1 day, and they are already in a 4-year system over there. What we are doing for them education-wise, we used to bring them in for a quarter in here to Ohio State, but we went to semesters and that was too long. So now what we've literally done is we've taken the 10-module advanced turf physiology course online and offer that to them. And they can do it in their own time at night. And they really like that. Many of them do that course online with Dr. Dannenberger. But I find a lot of them, they're already in a career track education system back home. So they don't necessarily need to come into college here at Ohio State. Plus the fact it's horrendously expensive to come into Ohio State or Penn State for these foreign kids who are not used to paying so much money for an education as they are back home. They would have their golf club paying for it. So yes, they have it. They really enjoy that. Now we also take them, and you would have seen them, Brian, down at the national conference in Phoenix, or next year it's going to be in San Diego. And already I'm talking to all of them. And this past year, I think I had 40 of them, Adam. Took them all to Phoenix. And you can think about this for a second, Adam. You take 40 boys aged 20 to 30 to a party in Phoenix. So you can understand why I have no gray hairs left on my head. It's risky, let me tell you. And I pray that we never have to go to Vegas, because it's going to be hell if I have to take 40 of these guys to Vegas, because it's not easy with them. As you can imagine, you asked me about some stories. I remember one time it was in San Diego. There was like a Howl at the Moon bar or something like that. And I was having a quiet dinner with a bunch of guys, and I got a call. Mike, all of your boys are up on the bar dancing with the girls. And I'm like, really? Why did they have to ruin my dinner? So instead of going in the front door of the bar, I went in through the kitchen, and I got a picture of them up on the bar. And then all of a sudden somebody looked around and saw me. You never seen rats jumping off a ship in your life. I mean, so once they see me coming, it's not a good thing to see at them. An ugly Irishman with a red face.
You need to add babysitter onto your business card too sometimes, huh?
Oh, yeah. Totally babysitter, but we have good fun, and they know that, I want to have them see them having fun as well. And that's part of the networking that's involved. But you can't take it out of line because you're in the spotlight. And yeah, that's O'Keefe's guys. Yeah, they're in trouble again, so I keep a tight rein on them, when they go out like that. So, but it's a big part of the program, actually. And I'll tell you what, these guys make friends for life. And they do that in the psychology of bringing them in here to Columbus for an orientation, putting them on the bus, going up to Muirfield, going to Scioto. And that's what's the strength of the program later, is those guys are my best ambassadors. And that's what really helps in that sense, Brian.
I love when dots get connected months later. So I met a couple of those students of yours at the show this year. And I remember them saying, yeah, I know we're here with a big group. There's a gentleman that's helping us out. And so I said, oh, so you guys going out partying? You doing anything while you're down here? And they were like, no, we're kind of sticking together. We're keeping everything together. I was kind of like, oh, that sucks. Now it makes sense.
Trust me, they were partying.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Of course. They're just being political with me. But yeah.
They were afraid that you were one of my spies.
Oh, absolutely. And I am now, guys. Heads up.
Yeah, we just did a show last week here in Columbus, and we had 44. They all had these purple shirts on, and you could see them a mile away. And one of them figured out, he goes, Mike, I know why you gave us these shirts, because you can spot us in a bar a mile away, yes. Can't you? Yeah, I can. So, but it is, and I'm glad you met some of those guys, because that show, what we do, Adam, is I get great funding, great support from Syngenta. Years ago, there was a gentleman from Syngenta, probably Brian might have remembered the name, Jose Milan. He was with Joe DiPaolo, and he was vacationing in Northern Australia with his wife, who was playing golf, and she went out to play golf, and he was in the shop, and he said, well, I don't play, but is the superintendent around by chance? And they said, yeah, we'll call him. Superintendent came down and said, come on, jump on, I'll drive you around. I heard you from Syngenta. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, he's driving around to ask him about the greens. And he goes, hey, mate, he said, when are you going to get Primo down here? And he goes, Primo? hell, Primo's not even licensed yet. What are you talking about? How do you know about Primo? And he said, well, I was on a program in the States 2 years ago, and I saw Primo was being used and being tested and it's fantastic. He goes, what program were you on? And this was Northern Queensland. He goes, I went through Ohio State and a guy called Mike O'Keefe, and he was like, are you kidding me? O'Keefe? Come on, man. So he came back and he was in a Syngenta meeting and he said, listen, we don't realize the framework of that dang program. He's producing educated buyers out there. This kid knew the rates, knew the benefits, knew what he could do with this stuff, and he could have used it perfectly in this situation. And he couldn't have it. And I said to him, I said, well, how much do you want? Like, how much Primo? He goes, about a 50-gallon drum.
Take
So
everything you got.
yeah. So he called me up and he said, would you mind coming talking to our Syngenta people about your program and tell them what you do and what's the mindset of it? And the mindset really is basically, yes, exactly. We're trying to produce educated buyers out there so they know what products are coming out in the States and what they can use when they go back home into Australia, New Zealand, or wherever. And he goes, this is awesome. And he's like, Mike, what can we do for you? And I said, well, I don't want any money coming in here to the university because we can't deal with, money coming in here. But if you want to help me help these kids get seminars at the conference, I would love that. And I want them to get more education. And you want to see all these guys take a minimum of 4 seminars at the conference, Adam. And they love it. It lights them up because it's human development, business management, budgeting, salinity issues at the GCSA. It's fantastic. So I work very closely with GCSA and I basically pay for all their seminars when they go to the conference. And it's a real benefit to these young guys. And they walk away. They become lifetime members of GCSA. They stay in touch by the magazine, and they're very much more switched on. And a big percentage of them come back to the actual national conference when they get jobs overseas. And you will see many of my past trainees. Brian would have seen them around the show that come back for the show every year. So that's a real win-win, Adam, in that situation.
So how much could you help, Mike? How much could you help people that don't have education yet? Is there avenues for them to go work at big courses, or would you really push them to get their education first before starting something like that?
Help somebody who doesn't have education in turf, you mean?
Yes.
So what I would advise them to do is to find a local, turf college. The education is the framework of everything. You have to have not only the education for your own professional career, because if you don't, and you say, get a job at a golf course, and you're a great guy, and you move up and you become an assistant, you're going to reach a glass ceiling. And when you go for the bigger jobs, people are going to take advantage of you because they're saying, well, you don't have education. We want to hire somebody who has an education. When you sit around with general managers or members and they look and say to me, and I get calls oftentimes, Mike, we've got 4 applicants. Which one would you pick? And I go through and I look at it from a mindset of, we can get a guy that has a 4-year degree from the University of Guelph versus a guy that has no education. He's a great grafter. Who are we going to buy? Who are we going to pick? We're going to pick the guy with the more education because we're going to get more value from him. He's going to bring more to the table than the guy. Maybe a great grafter, but he's not going to have that education and that technical ability. So get an education first. I will help you. I remember a young lady from Poland contacted me. She'd heard of somebody doing this and she had no education. What I first told her to do, go get a job at a local golf course. Oh, well, they don't hire women. And I said, really? They don't hire women? Yes. Well, there's no jobs there. I said, go find the head greenkeeper and ask him if you can volunteer. And she goes, what is that? I said, go ask him if you can work for free. And that will always skew them like completely like, what? You want to work for free? Well, that's great. Well, yeah, sure. Come in 1 day a week. She did that. And then after 6 months, he offered her a job and she got a job. And I said, then you've got to start getting an education. Here's some online courses. Here's this you can do, this you can do. So I literally coached her up the way through her education. And then she came on the program and she wanted to do more. And I said, I'm not sure this online system, and I didn't mean it as an offense or anything, but I just don't know if you could handle this thing because her English wasn't the best. Well, she took it like a red rag to a bull and took offense to it. And she goes, what do you mean I can't do this or I'm not capable? I said, I'm just saying it's difficult to do it online in your own time. She not only took the one certificate, she took the second certificate, and she sent me a picture with both certificates up like this. And
Yeah, the girl.
my Polish guy said, boy, you really pissed her off. And I said, Greg, do you see what I was doing? I was testing her to see if she was willing to put the commitment in. And now she's done it. Long story short, she's gone on to Australia. I helped her get down to Australia. She got a job on a golf course in Australia. She is now working for Onview. I don't know if you know what Onview is. It's a chemical company in Australia. And she came up to me at the show a couple of weeks ago and said, I told them the story about you saying I wasn't good enough. And I said,
Nothing
you
wrong with some
did?
motivation.
Yes. And I said, well, I'm really proud of you, Martina. I'm really proud of you. Now she's doing sales and marketing down in Australia. So there's a framework. I will help somebody, Adam, up through the system. But to get into this country on a visa, you have to have a turf education as well. And it's very difficult. When you come out of South Africa, for example, there was no turf education in South Africa. You had to go into Stellenbosch University and get a 4-year degree in soil science or in agronomy, and you couldn't get something in turf. Now there is a school that teaches turf and golf, but many times it's all about giving them the right direction and encouraging. Because if much as I might like you, if you don't have a turf education pathway, you're not going to get a visa from the US Embassy because they're just seeing somebody searching to get to America.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't work. So absolutely, I will help somebody, Adam.
Mike, we talked about tracking down students and that, but how do you identify golf courses? I know you mentioned, you're trying to find the right fit, but you obviously thousands and thousands of golf courses here in the States. How do you identify what golf courses are going to be acceptable placements for these people?
When I first started, Brian, my boss was actually taking some students from England through a lecturer called Martin Jones, and he was virtually trusting them to find their own golf courses. And of course, they would find courses in Florida and they would go party. And, the Irish guys would find a course in Boston and go up to Boston. So what I started to do was to watch the type of superintendents that were good mentors. Good people that have come up through the channels themselves. And I always remember being at OTF one time, Brian, and a skinny guy came up to me and he said, I'd love to work with your program because I've heard good things about it. It was John Zemmers from Oakmont. And I did not know him. And I said to him, well, I'm sure you would, but I've got to find quality interns for you. And I've got to make sure that, they're going to get treated properly. And a big percentage of what I do is because we not only work for Ohio State, we also answer to the State Department are they going to be treated properly? I put you on a plane to the Czech Republic with a suitcase and you're going to go work at a golf course over there and you're 19 years old, Brian. How would you handle that?
It'd be pretty scary.
It'd be pretty scary. And that's what it is for them because they look at the big America and it's very intimidating for them. So I look at courses and what framework they have in place for these young people to get a good internship. Do they have housing? Are they going to treat them properly? Are they going to train them? Not just bring them in as cheap labor, because that's not what these interns are. This program is not cheap by any means. I mean, you have to put a lot of personal time investment into these guys. And that's been the very simple framework. There's no secret to it. How do they look after them? I just did an interview yesterday with Howard Richmond from GCSAA asking me, why do you work with Scott Furlong? I don't know if you guys know who Scott Furlong is at RTJ.
I know Scotty.
Who he is?
I've played golf with him a couple of times. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh, I'm sorry you had to play golf with
He
him.
chirped me for being Canadian the entire few rounds we were together, but I think I turned him around towards the end of it.
Oh, he would have chirped you like crazy, man.
Oh, yeah.
He chirps me every day, so. But Howard asked me, why do you work with this guy? Why do you have 15 of your past interns flying back to America in September for the Solheim Cup? And I said, it's because they love him. He was hard on them. He was funny. He looked after them. He went out of his way with the housing. I mean, he literally keeps, I don't know if I should say this, but he keeps an apartment vacant all winter long for my interns, paying thousands of dollars, and has a GM on his back for having an empty apartment just ready for the interns in April. And this is the kind of thing that he goes above and beyond. He also calls me in September and says, well, you know, you guys next year, I think I'm going to send them to the US Open. And I think I'm going to send them to the Ryder Cup. And I'm like, Scott, I don't have interns for you for next year. What are you doing? Oh, but you will. You'll have good guys for me. So he works the psychology already. So you think about it, Adam, when I go to you as an intern saying, well, I'm going to send you to RTJ and you're guaranteed to be sent to Shinnecock for the US Open. What are you going to do? You're like, hell yeah, I'm going to go there. I'm ready. You know, so he does that, and he does it with class. And he also takes females, and he never shies away from taking a female. Now, we work a dynamic of putting two females together, and he had a young lady by the name of Lara Arias, and she barely spoke English when I sent her up there. And he called me, he goes, Mike, what language does she speak? Because I can't understand a word she says. Well, I said, I'm sure you're going to work it out, Scott, because you got some Hispanic workers around there. Adam, you don't know this, but she went on to be the superintendent of the Ryder Cup in Rome, if you can believe that.
We actually had her on the show right after she did that. And yesterday she reached out to me and she said, I want you to tell Mike, thank you so much for everything you've done for the industry and for me.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
That's really nice. How did she know I was going to be on the podcast? Did she know?
We put a little box up on Instagram yesterday with the picture of you, just saying if anybody wants to reach out, Mike will be on the show. So we had a few people, wow. Colin Caulfield said to say hi from Australia, and there's a few people that wrote in some questions and stuff. But yeah, no, you're definitely a beloved character in the, I shouldn't call you a character, but a beloved person in this industry.
He's a character. He's a character.
Well,
international stud, yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to regret ever telling that story now.
That
it's
needs
going to
be
be
on your
painful, I'm sure. Yeah, I kept one of those old business cards just so people would believe it, like what happened. You know, it was so embarrassing. But you know, Laura, she's a great example. She was a young lady in the north of Spain. You know, went to a seminar with the superintendent of what was then Real Madrid, the football grounds. And she went up to him afterwards and she said, I want to go overseas. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. And Paul Burgess, you asked me, how do I find these people? I knew Paul for years at Arsenal. And he said, I know a guy in America. He could help you. And he wrote to me and said, there's a young lady. And I was like, oh my God, Paul, really? You know, she doesn't speak English. All right, well, let's get her going. Let's get her going. And you know what she did was a secret? She did a promotional video, put a phone out on a green when she was mowing green. She put music to it. You want to talk about marketing yourself? That's what sold her on Scotty Furlong. And Scott was very impressed that she did enough to do that, to promote herself, doing basic tasks, mowing a green, you know, moisture whipping a fairway, doing basic stuff like that. And he took her on and he pushed her. And then, you know, we sent her to TPC Scottsdale and down to Keith at Quail Hollow. And she came back to Hazeltine to volunteer for the Ryder Cup. And then, you know, I remember calling Alejandro when he called me and said, I need good people for Paris. And I was looking around, and I found him an Irish guy. And then I found this gal, and he goes, Mike, she's Spanish. It's going to look like nepotism if I hire a Spaniard. I'm Spanish. And I said, I know, but she's good. She's real good. Well, eventually he got around to actually hiring her up into Paris, and the rest is history. They're a great couple now. And she ran the Ryder Cup in Rome. So the program, Adam, you know, it brought her out of her shell. It opened the world for her. It built her confidence. And she really became the person that she wanted to be. She drove herself. You know, she went to Paris, she learned French. She went to Rome, she learned Italian. And she had that confidence of the States behind her. And I see in a lot of her promotional videos that she gives credit to having been here in the States, because you need that moxie. You need that confidence if you're going to get to the top. You can't be afraid, you know, of somebody questioning your ability, and you are always watching. and she was always watching when she was on the golf course. Like there's a contractor putting down pipe. She's questioning, is that the right size? You got to have eyes on the back of your head if you're going to make it in this industry, Adam. And that's what she had to make it successful, because it was so hard. Nobody will ever know what she went through in Rome to get that tournament, over the wire.
No, that's incredible, and I'd love to go back and listen to her story again because she told a really, some really cool stories, and she has a great a background in our industry, and I wonder if she dropped your name. She might have, because if she worked that closely with you and you're that big of an impact in her career, I'm sure that was a part of it.
Oh, every day. It's amazing how now she's paying forward by recommending people to the program. And there's a young lady, I don't know if any of you are going to be up at the Solheim. It'll be a real fun thing. There's a young lady working for Scott now as an intern that she recommended. And this is what I call paying forward. And Brian will know who Woody Hayes was.
Mhm.
And this is what these kids do really well at them, is they pay forward. And they tell young people that work for them, hey, you should go on this program. And I'll get a young lady coming to me saying, I want to go on the program. And the young lady's name is Ferrari from Italy. And she's doing fantastic up with Scotty. And this is how they pay me back, is they recommend other students to the program. And that's why the program is so good, is it's true believers. It's true, honest, interested people that are destined to be successful in this industry, Adam, that she has been recommended to me now as a result of getting such great experiences. She's very grateful. She knows that this program really helped her jump to that level, and that's the nice thing about it.
Mike, how many students have you had go through the program over the years? Too many to count?
Yeah, so I need to tell Adam a little bit about Adam. Brian, you know this, that actually turf is the smallest part of our program. We
Right.
actually bring in about 450 to 5 interns, 500 a year into the country. And turf is the smallest part of it. I take care of turf, viticulture, wineries, and floristry myself, but I have other people here that take care of the combine crews, the big farms, the greenhouses, the nurseries. So on average, I used to bring in about 50 turf interns a year, every year. And that's hard to do now. COVID killed us, of course, but that was an average of about, I think I've got probably 45 or 50 right now. I have to move 31, 32, 36 in the fall this year. So that means there's people up north that I have to move down south, but I have others that are down south or out west. So I have probably about 50 here, and then I have 50 more that are here from last year. So I would have about an average of 100 turf interns in the country at any one time. But I really, Brian, I've never sat and counted my laurels. That sounds terrible, but number one, I don't have the time to sit down and count.
Sure.
But you do the math over since 1988, when I first started. Chris Gray came up to me. He works for the RNA now in Asia. And he said to me, Mike, do you remember? I was on your program back in 1989, 1990. And I said, I remember you.
All right, so a little technical glitch there. So hopefully Adam can jump back on and join us. Sorry about that, Mike. But we were talking a little bit. What do you think it takes to be a great golf course superintendent?
To be a great golf course superintendent today, well, if you asked me that 10 years ago, it might be a different answer. But today, it's all about people management. And young people today need a lot more attention. They need a lot more motivation. And, we talk about this mental health. It's a big part of the job factor today, that we have to be more sensitive to mental health and how you manage and motivate young people today. And I definitely approach it differently. We're much more conscious of the needs of young people. We're much more conscious of giving them way more than we got maybe when we were younger. And it's not a stigma. It's not a a spoiled brat or anything like that. If you want to get results today, you've got to do more for these young people. So I refer back to people like Scott Furlong. He goes out of his way to get the best possible housing for people. He goes out of his way to add value to their resumes. You're not just
Sure.
coming in to do an internship with me. I'm going to send you to a tournament. I'm going to spend good money investing in you and sending you to a tournament, because guess what? It pays dividends. Those young people will go away and realize this guy went out of his way to help me. And then they start comparing and contrasting in their next internship. What is this guy going to do for me? So the
Hmm.
bar is being raised a lot more than it was 10 or 20 years ago, because there's a massive shortage of young people. So we all have to do more. I say this to people: I do double the work for half the numbers today. I
Yeah,
mean, you'd
sure.
think now I'd be good at my job. I work harder than ever now to get
Sure.
the kids. It's so hard today, and I need quality. And this is the problem: is the hard work to find quality young people. And we're doing a lot more with females, and that's fine. I like that. You know, it
Yeah.
brings out the best in a crew when you have a female in there, and that dynamic should be done. It should have been done years ago. And I get great support from Syngenta in promoting females into the profession. And that's really what I look for in a good superintendent, Brian.
How do you see, personally, I kick myself for being so anxious to get into a job immediately after college. I wish I would have taken the time to travel and done some other things. How do you see your students evolve as people when they travel around and are a part of this program?
You said it. Travel. They travel. Travel is good for you. Travel is good for the mind. I mean, you take an example of Patrick Andrews. I don't want to pick on Patrick, but you know what it did for him? It literally, the time caused him to grow up. The overseas travel caused him to grow up. He also broadened his mind and broadened his horizons and broadened his network. So that maturity comes along with that travel. And that's what makes those people who have traveled so much better employees as a result of that travel. They see different ways of doing it. Bob Becker always talked about, you know, when I went to Australia, I thought I knew everything. And these guys are doing the same exact job, but they're doing it totally different. They have much less product. They have much less chemical. And they really become better employees as a result of that experience. So,
Welcome back, Adam.
Boys,
Some internet issues there. They're getting it all fixed up.
yeah, yeah. Me and my neighbor just brawled in the street with all the construction workers there. So
Oh, jeez.
crazy, man. Like, just knock on the door. Like the guy's like, "Well, we have to cut the internet to fix it." I said, "Well, just knock on the door. Let me know." I was like I said, "We're recording over here."
you know, Adam, I hate to say it while you were gone, you know, we're going to have to call Furlong on this, and he's going to be chirping that
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna
you
let
know,
this one
third
live this
world
one down.
country, lost the internet. You know,
Oh,
he'll stick the knife in you. And I,
oh my
I hate
gosh.
to say it, but you brought it on yourself. You know.
Oh yeah, no, it's I chose to live here. That's my bad. But we did get everything recorded. I did my computer kind of spun back together, and it said that we were able to save everything we
Okay.
previously did record. So we're good
Perfect.
on that front.
That's good.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Good.
because we had a solid hour of content there with you, Mike. So I'm glad we didn't lose that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not your fault. No need to apologize. So
No,
yeah.
Adam, we were just talking about, you know, what it takes to be a good superintendent today. And like I was telling Brian, you've got to do way more than you did before to get the quality kids today, because there's less of them out there. There's less coming out of colleges. So what you do get, you better make damn sure you take good care of them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're few and far between, right? So if you get a good one, it's better sometimes to keep them there and hone their skills and allow them to grow rather than just kind of pushing them on and looking for somebody with more experience or something like that. So it's a big part of it is on the people coming up and the students coming up, but then a big part of it's on the mentors too. So like we always kind of say, we're in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you being up there in Canada, there's a lot of young people in Canada that don't know about the opportunity to come down here to the States. I think of a young lady by the name of Kate Phillips that came down last year from Guelph,
Hmm.
and she had a fantastic time. They just have to get out of their comfort zone. You know, and that's the problem today. Too many of them are not willing to come out of their comfort zone to get this awesome experience.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Can see that. It's I wanted to ask you a little bit about I was listening to a little tidbit you did with Syngenta on YouTube earlier, and you were talking about, having the confidence to walk into a room and introduce yourself to people. and how much that's changed, with the phones and social media and everything, that confidence to being able to walk into a room of people you don't know or reach out to somebody you don't know. I feel like that's gotten a lot harder, and there's a lot more social anxiety to that. So have you seen anybody struggling with that, or any solutions to dealing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We see it every day with these kids. They're terrible at communicating directly with a person. They will tweet them, they will text them, they will do anything but get on the phone and speak to them face to face or on a WhatsApp. And we have an exercise we do during the GCSAA, actually, where we put them in a room in a round table and we get them to introduce themselves to a minimum of 5 people. And you want to talk about painful. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing, but we have that dynamic down pat now where we tell them, okay, you're going to have to tell us about 5 people in your circle, what their background is, where they're from, what they do, what their opinion is. And I mean, it's literally like an awakening because they've been forced to do it. And then they start saying, well, this guy did this and this. And I'm like, wow, man, I've never heard you talk so much about other people. You actually know about the guy sitting next to you because, at GCSA, you go to the seminar, you sit down, you barely look at the person next to you. And then you're on your phone tweeting, but I don't blame them for that. It's society today. So I don't take it as a negative. I just work with them to get past it and to get more comfortable with socializing and network with people in a room.
That's a great exercise because it teaches them how to listen too. And I think that's probably the most important skill that's out there. You can talk to someone, but if you're not actually listening and comprehending what they're saying, it's kind of pointless. But so, Mike, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested about the program, want to hear more about it, or maybe get involved in it?
The thing that I was concerned coming on this podcast in the first place, to be honest with you, is that number one, as you realize, I don't have enough of these young people to go around. And I can imagine this podcast goes out to thousands of people around America and they will all want an intern. So
Well,
if
hopefully
anything,
this helps you get more people that want to be a part of the program and be interns for you.
yes, that's the focus. And my area is bringing in international interns into the States. But what happens is when I do these podcasts is I get superintendents calling me going, hey, man, I'd love to have 5 guys. I love what you do. And I'm like, oh, my God, I can't even get one guy for Pebble Beach, let alone 5 guys for you in Utah. So, I mean, I'm doing this more to educate people about why we need to do a better job with young people today rather than trying to get business, because I have way too many golf courses. I have a stack, you should see it, of over 150 golf courses that want interns right now.
Do you have
And
people greasing you under the table? Be like, hey, Mike, here's a little extra something, something,
oh, Furlong. I mean, he's mad at me because I stopped into the Cal Club in San Francisco. Why are you going in there? I said, your old GM is the general manager there, Glenn Schmickley. Well,
Yeah.
you don't need to work with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're greasing me not to work with other people. It's the opposite. And sadly, when I go to the GCSA show, if you go to the Ohio State booth, you'll never find me on the booth.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all the students are like, Mike, all these people came up to the booth. They want to talk to you, and you don't have any business cards. I said, dude, I'm hiding. Get away from me. So it's really sad because I would love to be able to get interns for everybody, but it's an exceptional program, and I will tell you this right now. I expect an awful lot from these hosts that take these kids. And Brian, Chad, you see how much work Chad puts in. He's got a great apartment. He sends the kids away for a week to volunteer. He looks after them. They do way more than anybody else does for the interns. And it's not just Muirfield. I mean, you go to Bob Becker, you go to Stuart Bote at Emerald Dunes down in Florida. They know what it takes to get these young people up to speed, and they then push them, to be the best they can be. And I think Jeff Plotz down at TPC Sawgrass, they see these people as future leaders, Adam, and this is what we're growing really as future leaders. So we're not really treating these young people as interns. This is management training, and very soon you're going to be a superintendent. And I tell a quick story here. There was a young man on the 16th green at Sawgrass from South Africa, and he said to me, Mike, he said, do you realize I've already done 60 hours this week, and I will never work this long in my life in South Africa when I go back. And I said, well, are you going to get a job? He goes, oh, hell yeah, I got 2 offers as a superintendent already. And I said, well, good for you. You got a job. This is the whole goal of the program. A year later, Adam, he called me on WhatsApp video and he goes, Mike, remember the conversation we had? I said, yeah, how are you doing? He goes, I used to have 10 people. Now I have 2. Would you talk to them about how it is to be motivated and do this? Because I'm already after putting in 60 hours and I'm afraid I'm going to lose the 2 guys because we're having to mow the golf course by ourselves. And I said, there you go. Did you ever imagine you'd be doing more hours a year after you left the program? So we're really trying to motivate people and learn to help them prepare for the horrible things that can happen in life. You know, the long hours, the pressure like that. And then you produce good people as a result of that are ready for this kind of pressure down the road. So that's really what it is. So giving out my email address, I don't know if I want to do that.
That's fair.
What's the website for the Ohio program?
We changed it. I can't remember what it is.
Uh-oh.
Just, I'm sure if they Google it, they'll find it.
That's the
Just
gospel
Google
truth.
International Stud. It'll come up.
That's right. That's right.
Honestly, I don't know what our website is right now because they changed it. It used to be top.osu.edu, so you can try that because it's the Ohio program is what our name was. And would you believe this? And I can tell you guys this, they made us stop using the word THE because it's licensed or whatever, so we can't use it anymore. So now I want to say it's like Ohio International Intern Program, something like that. So, but please don't take offense to the fact that I don't want to give out my details.
No worries.
This will be a first for you. Nobody else would be telling you that. They'd be glad to have the exposure, and I do, and I appreciate what you guys do, and I think it's very important for the industry because guess what? Young people listen to podcasts now more than they read magazines, Adam. And a lot of people come up to me and say, "I heard your podcast. I heard your podcast," and this is what I want to do: is motivate them to be better and to get more networking and connections out there. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. Well, we don't want to keep you all day. Mike, was there anything else that you really wanted to talk about or any special stories you wanted to share with us?
I want to get more American students to go overseas. I really do. Not just Americans, Canadians as well. You know, they can go over to the UK very easily and get some great experience. And I want them to know that there's a framework out there for them to do this. It will add value. It will help them grow up. As I was talking to Brian earlier, the maturity. You'll look at the world in a different way as a result of an experience like this. I'd love for you guys to talk to Patrick Andrews up in Philadelphia, how much it changed his life, how much it's changed his perspective. Brian, you know him, and you see how much it opened the world up for him, and he's a better person for it. Not only a better greenkeeper, but a better person. And when he needs help now, he can reach out to anybody. He can get to his mentor in New Zealand, or he can call Alan in Ireland, and you can bet your life he'll be going back when they have the Ryder Cup up there in 2027. Adam, he'll be doing that. So my message really to get out there is we need more Canadians and Americans to consider going overseas from turf colleges. Give the time, because guess what? Suddenly you'll be in a job and you'll be tied down with a wife and kids, and you won't be able to travel. So if you can do this, do it now while you're in college before it's too late, Adam.
That's great.
I wonder if my wife would let me go do that. Do you think you could find me a spot, Mike?
No. I know your wife. I know your wife.
How funny is it? You guys sat next to each other on the plane ride out to San Diego. I couldn't believe that.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Small world.
No, she'd come find me. She knows where I work. If you disappeared, there's no way I'm letting you go to New Zealand, mate. Let me tell you. So listen, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys. Please get in touch if you have any questions or anybody wants some advice or some feedback. I love what I do, and I love to see you guys doing what you're doing, because in a different way, you're spreading the word and you're bettering the profession as a result of this.
Oh, we appreciate you. Appreciate
you coming on, Mike. If there's anything we can do to support you guys and help out in any way, just let us know.
Adam, I tell you what, I'm struggling to get Canadians. So you're up there and you know the University of Guelph and maybe you know some other turf colleges. If you're doing any communication with those colleges, encourage them to do something like this. We'd love to have some Canadians down here. Get in touch with Kate Phillips. She'll tell you how it
Mhm.
changed her life. I think she's going to go to school at Penn State now and do a master's degree as a result of being exposed to all the technology and the stuff. She was down at Seminole in Florida. So we would love to get some Canadians down here, and we rely on you. I mean, I know your internet connection is not great up there, but
Yeah. It's shoddy up
Zing.
here. It's all the ice, all the igloos and everything. Makes it tough.
I got Furlong on speed dial. I'm going to call him and tell him to give you some jab.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
That stupid Canadian.
I didn't say that.
No, yeah, it's okay.
Awesome.
It's all good.
All
We
right.
like having some fun on the show. So anytime we can crack a joke or make some people laugh, it's always good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mike, always great to see you. Always great to talk to you. So thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
All right. You guys take care. Thank you.
Okay, you too, Mike. Thank you.
See ya.